What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Andy, the Electric Geek, and in for review today we have Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning on 4K Blu-ray. I'm a massive Mission Impossible fan and a bit of a Tom Cruise fanboy, so decided to go ahead and pre-order myself the HMV Exclusive 4K Steelbook of the movie. So ultimately we'll be talking about the video and audio transfer on this one, whether or not it's worth adding it to your collection. But seeing as I've got the Steelbook, we'll have a quick look at the Steelbook itself. I'll talk about the special features, and then we'll be diving into all things Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning on 4K Blu-ray. So thanks for sticking with us, folks. If you're new to the channel and you love all things physical media, you love collecting Blu-rays, and you love watching movies in the highest quality, say on 4K Blu-ray, then this is definitely a channel for you. So please hit that subscribe button, stick that notification bell on so you don't miss my new content when it drops. Anyway, back to Mission Impossible. So 30 years almost this has been running now. I watched the first one when I was in 1996 or 97 or something, when I was about 10 years old. I remember watching it on VHS. My dad rented it from Blockbuster Video, or Ritz it may have been at the time. Crazy to think that 30 years later I'd be going full circle as an adult myself, older than Tom Cruise was now in that first film, and buying, you know, the latest one, episode 8 or chapter 8 if you like, on 4K Blu-ray. Just crazy that he's been going all that time doing these death-defying stunts and just outdoing himself every time, defying his age. Anyway, that's enough about crazy Tom Cruise. So a quick look at this Steelbook. So as you can see, I think it's really nice. So it comes as a 2-disc set. It only comes with the movie in 4K with nothing else on it, and then you get a dedicated Blu-ray bonus disc which has all the special features on it. We'll talk about the special features towards the end. So the film itself, I really enjoyed it. To be honest and frank about it, I don't think it's my favourite in the franchise, although it'd been nice if it had been, because it's ultimately, you know, the culmination of the 30 years. Does it have a little bit of emotional weight at times? Yes, but ultimately I feel as the movie's gone on, it's all about outdoing the last set of stunts that Tom Cruise did, and it's really just an excuse for Cruise to be an adrenaline junkie and push himself physically and mentally in a filmmaking sense, I think. And I think Final Reckoning feels like that. It feels like a movie that Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie have sat down and had these two action sequences in their head, the big underwater submarine one, and of course that crazy stunt which is amazing on the biplane. And then it's as if they're like, right, and we'll just find a way to make the movie work around that. And it does work, but it can, I think, drag at times. It's amazing to say that a Mission Impossible film drags at times, but it does. It's very exposition heavy in the beginning, and Cruise has very little acting to do in this one. I think this is the one that blurs the lines the most between just Tom Cruise as a person and Ethan Hunt. He has a bit of acting to do in all the other ones, but the stunt sequences are absolutely amazing, so I'll forgive him for that. But yeah, I would say Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning is a satisfying-ish finish to the Mission Impossible franchise, but I think it's maybe like a 4 out of 5. My favourite in the franchise is still Fallout, definitely Fallout by some distance. Anyway, on to how this disc actually looks. So first and foremost, let's talk about the video. So I can't hold in my excitement to say that the IMAX ratios are in this movie. So the film comes in an aspect ratio of 2:3:9:1, but then for those big action sequences that I spoke about, the submarine, the biplane stunt at the end, we get the shift in aspect ratio to 1:90:1. So in the submarine scene, there's a point where Tom Cruise is in a kind of airlock type thing and the water starts to fill up, and he has to initiate that by turning a kind of crank lever thing. So what happens is we're in 2:3:9:1, and then as he starts to turn the screw, the IMAX ratio starts to come in bit by bit with each turning of the handle. Just so subtle but so cool, and for guys like me, and no doubt you guys, people that are into this stuff, the quality and the presentation, just so good, man. So good, just got me so giddy inside. But yeah, enough about the IMAX ratios, but the picture quality is absolutely fantastic when it comes to those IMAX sequences that are filmed with IMAX rated cameras. So the movie has a 4K digital intermediate. It was filmed mainly with digital cameras, as I say, the Sony Venice cameras, of resolutions up to about 6K, I think it was, if you trust IMDb. But apparently there was one scene that was shot in 35mm, but I've searched the internet, searched far and wide, I've went through every single special feature, and I can't for the life of me find out what scene that was. So if anyone can spot it or knows what it was, then stick it in the comments below which scene was filmed in 35mm. So as I say, it's a native 4K presentation of this movie, and it is mainly shot digitally, but they've obviously put some kind of overlay or done something in post digitally to give it that kind of filmic grain structure, because it's not got that plastic, fantastic, super clean look to it that you'd maybe expect from a superhero film or something. It does have that kind of artificial film grain to it, but it's not kind of overdone and it's not too distracting. So you would be kind of tricked into thinking that a lot of it is filmed on genuine film stock. But as I say, when you get those IMAX ratios, when you get those action sequences that are filmed with digital cameras, they are spectacular. And I think the fact that Tom Cruise is putting himself in those situations for real, you want the best possible quality, you want that digital cinematography, and understandably they're pushing the boundaries of action cinema. So adding like natural filmmaking to it, actually using film stock is just going to make that a nightmare. They're not wanting to do these stunts over and over again for safety reasons, obviously, so they have to have the practicality of it right up there to avoid having to retake and do all this stuff again. So I totally understand why that stuff's done digitally and they can use smaller cameras and stuff. My understanding watching the special features was that a lot of the cameras had to be designed from scratch, or certainly the rigging of the cameras had to be designed from scratch, because nobody had ever done the mental stuff that Tom Cruise does on that biplane. Within the wing structure of the plane, just absolutely phenomenal. As I say, I can't stop watching it. I just find it mesmerising. But yeah, the presentation of this film is fantastic. The 239 to 1 stuff is quite kind of generic. So it's like compared to other films. So it's not as though when you're watching the entire movie, like say Oppenheimer or something like that, every scene looks super, super crisp and your jaws dropping all the time. I would actually say that the kind of lighting and the cinematography of this movie is actually quite dull throughout. I don't think it's visually all that interesting in between. Maybe been a bit harsh on it there. The presentation is absolutely fine throughout, but it's only when we get those IMAX ratios that you're really kind of getting your money's worth out of this 4K, and that's what justifies buying it on 4K Blu-ray, in my opinion. But it comes with HDR, you get Dolby Vision, and it looks nice throughout, but I wouldn't say it's the most punchy, vibrant image until certainly the canyon scene in South Africa with the biplanes, the really bold primary colours of the yellow and the red biplane against the lush kind of green and that kind of lovely kind of burnt sandstone orange of the background in South Africa in that canyon. That's when HDR is most evident, I think. The submarine scene's good as well because obviously it's so dark and the shadow detail is excellent there, and Cruise is using this kind of LED lighting system in his helmet, similar to that of the helmet he had during the Halo jump in Fallout, to kind of light him up so that we can see obviously that it is actually him that's doing the stunt work. So that looks really nice. You get the dynamic contrast there, obviously the really, really dark darks with the really bright light of the internal lights of his helmet. So that sequence is raised and is more dramatic as a result of HDR being implemented there. So as you can see in the photos, I've taken a few photos throughout the movie. It does look fantastic. And because it's so epic, those sequences, I just had to throw it up on my projector. I've never really showed footage of my projector because it's not 4K. It's just a HD projector, Optoma one that I got from a good friend of mine, Blu-ray Baz, for a really good price. I got it for like 200 quid off him. It was in really good condition. Bought myself a nice screen. And I have to say, even though it's HD, it's set up correctly with the lights off and all that, and it's got a proper screen with a gain on it of 1.1, I think it is. It does look fantastic. So as you can see there, it really comes into its own with those IMAX sequences. So enough about all that IMAX goodness, although I could talk about it all day. Let's get on to the audio. So the audio is fantastic in this disc as well. I mean, it's an action sequence. It's what Dolby Atmos is for, isn't it? It's for those big blockbuster movies like Mission Impossible. It's just exactly what you'd expect. It's punchy in all the right places. Whenever we get the dun, 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 it's just so, hits you right in the chest. It's satisfying. The score's really good throughout, actually. It kind of like melodies, a lot of the kind of little, each movie, if you like, has got its own little theme that plays with those throughout, and it's quite kind of dramatic and emotional towards the end, the score. So I really appreciated the score in this one, and I think the Atmos track handles it well. Another cool place that it's used is whenever the entity is kind of speaking. So that's the kind of villain in this film, is obviously the kind of rogue AI that's taken over the world and is looking to destroy the world now using all the superpowers nuclear arsenal. So there's a sequence where Tom Cruise ends up in a kind of coffin-like digital device where he can kind of communicate with the AI. And when that happens, again, the aspect ratio shift to 190 to 1 to make it more immersive. And then the Atmos track really comes into its own then when it starts pinging voices all over the place. So the AI starts using people's voices from the movie that are important to Cruise or are perhaps the villains that he's up against to try and intimidate him. And it uses the object-based Atmos to move it all around the room. So it's very kind of claustrophobic. You feel like you're in the coffin yourself because the words are coming from all over the place and the screen is really tall at that point. So when you're in a dark room with the entity in front of you, and then all these kind of different voices moving from like Haley Atwell's to Simon Pegg's to Isaiah Morales' voice with that kind of robotic effect. It's a really cool use of Atmos, and if you've got a good home cinema setup that's Atmos capable, you're really going to get the benefit of that if you buy the 4K Blu-ray. So to sum up, as far as the video and audio goes, it's definitely one to add to your collection. It's got huge rewatchability, I would say. Like I say, I've already watched that sequence about 5 or 6 times across my OLED for the HDR goodness, and then just for the sheer impact of those sequences, I've stuck it on my projector as well, and I can't really decide what I prefer most, to be honest. But I can definitely recommend it for the video and audio. It's a showstopper. And just before we wrap up, as far as like the special features are concerned, we get about 17 minutes of behind the scenes footage. I think they're somewhat of a letdown. I mean, it's great to see behind the scenes, but they're very polished and quite snappy on each kind of chapter. And I don't think they give a great insight into the filmmaking process. I like all that. I like to know. I'm a sucker for information, and these sequences are some of the best that have ever been put on film. So I want to know the process. I want to know everything about it. I want a closer kind of behind the scenes look at it. And I think this is consistent with all the Mission Impossible special features. They're all just a little bit too polished and a little bit surface level. However, that said, there is a section called editorial content, I think it is. And that's like raw footage from mainly the biplane sequence. And it's got an optional commentary with Chris McQuarrie. Make sure if you watch it, you put that on. It doesn't go on by default. And it's really interesting when you listen to the commentary, because it's the raw footage, still all the timings running on it and stuff like that. And he explains the challenges, the different takes, the different ways they experimented with the lighting. They had to come back on different days because they just weren't getting the effect they wanted. Issues they had with the camera that was causing like buffeting and stuff. It's a really nerdy kind of breakdown of the challenges they faced trying to film that. That's what I want. I wanted more of that, not the glossy promo stuff. And speaking of that, you also get all the promo stuff. So if you've seen anything on the internet or when you were at the cinema before it came out, you know those little bits where it's like a 2-minute reel designed to kind of get you excited about it. The best one is the parachute one. So Tom Cruise broke up a world record, or set a Guinness World Record for the most parachute jumps with a burning chute or something like that. So it's got quite a cool edited together 16 shots of each time the parachute burned, and then number 16 is actually the one that's in the movie because it's the most dramatic and he almost flips upside down. So special features wise are good, but they could have been better kind of thing. But the editorial stuff is really worth watching. I haven't listened to the full audio commentary. There is a full audio commentary on the disc. So that might kind of raise my appreciation again once I get around to listening to that. And there's also an isolated score. If you love the movie score, you can just stick it on the back while you're working on that. So as a package, it's really worth it. I paid $34.99 for the Steelbook because I like the film, like the franchise, so I wanted the fancy Steelbook. But obviously you can get the stand-up at $24.99 or the Blu-ray will be $14.99. So those are extremely good value. I think the Blu-ray will still look fantastic as well because of the high resolution source material. But see, for this one, it's demo quality. Get the 4K. Don't need to get the Steelbook. I don't think you'll regret even paying full price for the $24.99 standard 4K because you're going to watch this over and over again. You're going to show it to your mates and stuff. It's one to test your home theatre on. So yeah, I can definitely recommend just get it in the 4K with the Blu-ray. I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't. So that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed my 4K review of Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. You can definitely recommend adding it to your collection. Let me know what you think of the movie. How does it rank in the Mission Impossible franchise, be it just as a movie or as a 4K disc if you have it yourself? Drop a comment below and I'll enjoy getting back to you down there. So thanks for hitting us up again on here. I've been Andy Electric Geek. Make sure you subscribe and set your notification bell on. My next video is going to be all about 5 mistakes I've made as a collector, which I'm pretty sure you'll be making, or you at least have made 1 or 2 of them yourself. So like I say, look out for that one dropping. But until next time, keep buying 4K Blu-ray, keep physical media alive, and I'll see you in the next video.